No matter what is said in this video about Pokemon Sword and Shield, someone is going to get upset. If you enjoy the game, great. If not, that's great too. But I feel some of the criticism this game gets has become so muddied by drama. In this video, I want to go over what was presented in the game and what went wrong with the final product. To get this point out of the way now, I don't care that much about the Pokédex being cut, but I understand why people are upset. So let's jump right into the Galar region with my review of Pokemon Sword and Shield. The gameplay of Pokemon is as simple as it always has been. You train and catch the ultimate team to take on challenges that await you on your adventure. Every Pokemon has a specific type, and they all have strengths and weaknesses to one another. Mastering this core mechanic makes every Pokemon game incredibly easy, and this game is no different. Every new entry in the series tries to introduce something new to change up the way people will battle, like with new types, Mega Evolutions, or Z moves. Sword and Shield ditches Mega Evolutions and Z moves for Dynamaxing. It's essentially a mix between the two. Dynamaxing a Pokemon makes them giant, but only for 3 turns. When Dynamaxed, all of your Pokemon's moves will change to max moves, which grant extra effects after use. This can include changing the weather conditions, increasing your Pokemon stats, or lowering the opposing Pokemon stats. A select group of Pokemon have the potential to Gigantamax, which modifies their look and changes certain moves to G-Max moves. I'm very mixed on this feature if I'm being honest. On one hand, it adds an extra dynamic to battles when facing off against gym leaders, but if you're battling other trainers online, it starts to show just how unbalanced the mechanic can really get. Some Pokemon can abuse the secondary effects of max moves more than others due to what types of moves they can learn. I won't focus on the competitive aspect too much, but in-game, it's definitely not as broken. Dynamaxing is not used much during the main portion of the game. This feature is limited to gym leader battles and the new max raid battle feature. Adding this mechanic to gym battles makes them grander than they ever were before. It gives off a new atmosphere with the stadium setting paired up with it. With how much emphasis is put on gym battles in previous games, it's nice to see people in the region actually excited to see them. The journey to the gym leader battles, however, are the same as previous Pokemon games. You'll have puzzles or little mini games that you have to get past to challenge the gym leader. Some of them are pretty boring compared to past entries in the series. In the grass gym, you will gather a bunch of Wooloo together, and in the fighting gym, you will spin a bunch of teacups, because that makes perfect sense, right? Despite me liking the Dynamax feature in the gym leader battles, I still think more needs to be done to make these feel fresh. One way you can easily improve the gym challenges are making their teams based around a specific strategy. It's kind of like what the 8th gym was like when participating in double battles instead of the standard singles format. It was a great contrast between the other gym challenges. As mentioned earlier, gym battles are not the only time you can Dynamax. The wild area is a new feature in Sword and Shield that's basically a small open world where you can find items and catch wild Pokemon. While exploring, you will find holes in the ground that lead to a new type of battle called Max Raid Battles. In these, you can team up with 3 trainers online to take on a Dynamax Pokemon, with the chance to catch them after defeating it. If you are unable to use the online features, the game will pair you up with a computer player instead. Beating the raids also grant rewards to everyone in the room. 2 of the rewards are new items called Technical Records and Experience Candy. The Technical Records are moves that you could teach your Pokemon, but will break after one use. Luckily, they're pretty plentiful due to raid battles, so it's not too big of a deal. However, a lot of good moves are tied to TRs instead of TMs, making TMs rather pointless. The experience candies do not work like the rare candies. Instead of automatically leveling up your Pokemon, experience candies will give you a set amount of experience. This new item makes training a Pokemon so much faster and gets rid of a lot of grinding seen in most RPGs. I no longer have to battle a ton of wild Pokemon. I can instead fight a set of raid battles to level up. However, trying to join with random trainers or friends to get these rewards is a nightmare. The new YCOM system is the online communication hub that doesn't function properly. From time to time, you will notice notifications in the lower left-hand corner of the screen. You can tell when someone has caught a Pokemon, beats a raid, or wants to trade. This is also how you join raid battles. Sometimes you won't be able to connect with another player, or it will say the room is full. Being unable to connect happens frequently enough to where it becomes a nuisance. You are able to refresh to see new notifications, but you can only do it once. Using other online features will fix the issue, but it's annoying that you can't refresh it as many times as you want. Trading with friends is also a hassle. You can no longer just select your friend to trade since anyone can now initiate a trade at any given time. Setting a code is the only way to make sure you don't accidentally trade with someone else. This is a big step backward for online functionality in Pokemon. One cool feature with the online is seeing random trainers roaming around the wild area. It's really cool to see in action, but it does cause some frame rate dips. You can also visit Pokemon camps set up by other players online. This is basically the Pokemon-ame of this game. You can play with random players' Pokemon or your own and make curry with them. This will increase the happiness of your Pokemon and give them extra experience. Having online while running around in the wild area makes it less empty than it already is. There's nothing interesting about the wild area besides raid battles. There are no hidden areas or interesting locales to visit, which doesn't give the player a big incentive to explore. Speaking of experience, the experience share makes a return, but it's a feature that can't be turned off. This is a questionable decision that limits the player's options, but it's not extremely broken. This is where some may disagree with me, but the experience share is pretty balanced. On both of my playthroughs, I was never extremely overleveled like in X and Y. The gym leaders caught up to me by the 3rd and 4th gyms. If it wasn't obvious, the core gameplay is still the same as it always has been, and it's starting to show its age. The turn-based battle system really isn't the culprit here, and despite the emptiness of the wild area, it's a nice change of pace for the series. Its age mainly comes from the, roadblocks. Whenever I start to explore a new city, there's usually something blocking my way. This mainly comes in the form of Team Yell. It makes Sword and Shield very handholdy when it doesn't need to be. Monostoke City has a cool aesthetic, but it's hardly utilized to its full potential. I can see buildings in the background, but the game never allows me to explore them. To be fair, some of the other towns are designed to be small in scale, but we're working with the power of a home console now. Routes are all pretty straightforward and don't offer many opportunities to explore. When there are branching paths, they're short and take you right back to where you need to go. This makes Sword and Shield extremely linear, and I would say even more so than Black and White. I'm not asking for a full open world Pokemon game, but a non-linear experience can definitely breathe new life into the series. A welcomed returning feature are the regional variants of Pokemon. Like in Sun and Moon, regional variants take creatures from different regions and gives them brand new designs and typings. This time around, they also give a few of them evolutions exclusive to the Galar region. Linoone now evolves into Obstagoon, and Meowth now evolves into Berserker. After you beat the main game, there's not much to do during the post-game. The story does have a post-game episode, but it feels like something that should have been part of the main campaign. The post-game battle facility is called the Battle Tower, and it's extremely underwhelming. You fight wave after wave of random trainers with different teams, but the main leader of the tower is just the champion. At least the battle tree in Sun and Moon had you face off against trainers from the past, and allowed you to team up with them. Only single and double battles are allowed, and eliminates the multi-battle feature that allowed players to team up with other trainers locally. To improve the post-game content, they could have easily added more battle facilities to offer more of a variety. It'll help with the casual players to keep them playing, and give the more hardcore audience some form of difficulty. There needs to be a huge overhaul in how the post-game content is handled. The story of Sword and Shield is simple this time around. You are a boy who becomes a Pokemon trainer and takes on the gym challenge to become the champion of the Galar region, with a bunch of extremely one-dimensional characters that won't leave you alone, and something about the world ending. The best part of the story is when it just focuses on you trying to become the champion. I always felt that was the core part of Pokemon, and I'm glad it gets more attention here. They even mention how trainers end up failing the gym challenge, and most of them never make it past the 3rd gym. However, the legendary Pokemon involved in this story and main antagonist come out of nowhere. One second you'll be fighting in the Pokemon League, and then suddenly you're saving the world. Your friend joining you on the adventure to become the best like no one ever was is Hop, the younger brother of the champion. His growth as a character is different compared to most Pokemon games. He looks up to his brother and wants to be just like him, but eventually he loses a battle and starts to doubt himself. Hop starts thinking he is tarnishing the reputation of his older brother. By the end of the game, he finally finds his own path in life and doesn't try to stay in the shadow of his sibling. A lot of people don't seem to like Hop, but it's mainly because he is extremely annoying and constantly appears in the story. Before and after a major event or gym, Hop will challenge you to a Pokemon battle. You do have other rivals to break up the monotony of Hop, like Bede. His character trait is being arrogant and learning not to be, and Marnie, who just wants to become the Pokemon champion. The soon-to-be professor of the game is Sonia, and she's mainly there just to move the plot along. The antagonist of the story is Rose, the chairman of the gym challenge. He basically wants to make sure Galar has a bright future by destroying it, which I don't quite understand how that works, but neither does the game. I can forgive the lack of solid characters to a certain extent, but what I can't forgive is Team Yell. Their sole existence is to block the player from progressing to an area you're not supposed to visit yet. The main gimmick of the team is that they're toxic fans of Marnie and want to stop other gym challengers from competing so they can ensure she becomes the champ. It's different from the usual team that wants to take over the world, but it's not a good one. The story is never a big part of Pokemon to begin with, so for me, it doesn't detract from the experience. But when Pokemon Black and White have an interesting story in the form of the character N, you kinda want to see that type of story again. I know Game Freak is capable of it, but I have yet to see it after those games. I want to see a villain have some sort of philosophy to back up their reasoning behind their actions. I want to see interesting characters in the story. This game just doesn't deliver on that. A lot has been said about the graphics of Sword and Shield already. For me personally, I expected this from the very beginning before the gameplay was shown off. It's similar to X and Y, where it looked okay, but didn't take the proper steps presentation-wise until Sun and Moon. So I'm not too disappointed for Pokemon's first home console adventure. Yes, it should look better, and I'm not trying to excuse it, but most of the time, I feel everyone focuses mainly on the wild area. There are plenty of good-looking locations throughout the region, like Balloonly, Winden, and Monostoke. The colors are able to pop out more here, which makes the textures in these cities not as bad to look at. Pop-in is an issue that doesn't bother me most of the time, but it's extremely apparent in this game. In a few of the cutscenes, you will see Pokemon and people disappear right before your eyes. This creates a big disconnect between the world and the player. For some reason, other objects can stay in view further away, but when it comes to people and Pokemon, it just can't handle it. With that being said, important story cutscenes look much better than they did on 3DS. The developers even added new quick dynamic cutscenes when facing off against your rivals or various gym leaders. However, there's one big issue with these in particular. I'm going to play some footage real quick, and I want you to guess what's wrong. Did you hear it? Well, you shouldn't be able to because there's no voice acting. This is a big stain on the presentation because by today's standards, this approach is outdated. Voice acting would give much needed excitement to these small moments in battle and give more weight to some of the cutscenes in general. Compared to the 3DS, the Pokemon models look better, but that's mainly due to the lighting. The models are the same as the 3DS ones with reused animations from those games. The actual moves themselves look okay, but the Pokemon's attack animation need to be reworked. There are some good animations like the legendary signature attacks and Cinderace's Pyro Ball. On a positive note, the music is great. The best pieces of music in this game are without a doubt the battle themes. Marnie's battle theme is the best rival theme, and the gym leader battle music changes depending on the situation. They even have the crowds chanting in some of the songs when you're in the championship. But let's face the facts. Even if you had fun with the game like I did, Sword and Shield could be much better. Now that we're on a home console, many improvements need to be made visually and gameplay-wise. But to say this game is bad as a whole just doesn't feel right. There is fun to be had in the wild area with the max raid battles, and I haven't even talked about all the competitive changes to make it easier to raise Pokemon. I can make a whole video about what needs to change with the series, but that doesn't need to be included here. I wanted to review what was presented to me and judge it based on past experiences. What that game presented was a flawed but fun experience. But what do I know? I'm just some random guy on the internet who wanted to talk about Pokemon Sword and Shield. Hey, if you want to see more from Nate's Gaming Lounge, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more video game reviews, and see you next time.